Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. So today I am doing someone else's makeup as usual. This is our new usual and we are jumping right in. First up, I am taking my Sorbet Refine+Protect 3-in-1 hydration and skin treatment primer with an SPF of 30. I love the stuff. It's very hydrating. It really gives a luminous look to the skin. And the model that I am using today, shout out to my model, thank you so much for your time. The model I am using today hadn't put anything on her skin, so I thought this would really help with making sure that she looks hydrated and that she looks very nourished before I go in with the rest of the face. Next up, I'm using my Alila Prebase Flawless Skin Radiance. This is a primer from this professional makeup brand called Alila. I love this professional makeup brand. It was actually my first time using this primer. Honestly speaking, I didn't really feel like it made much of a difference. It's supposed to help the makeup adhere to the skin much better. I'm not really sure if it actually did that. I didn't really notice anything extraordinary about it. I just applied it with the same brush that I use for the Sorbet primer, and then I pushed it into the skin using my beauty sponge. This beauty sponge I love. It's from Sorbet and it's very affordable. And then next up, I am going in with my FitMe foundation. For this client, since I didn't really have something to exactly fit or match his skin, I mixed two shades from the FitMe. I used 350 and 332. Initially, with the first mix, which is this one over here, I wasn't very happy because it was just way too light for her complexion. So I blended it in first because I wanted to complete that step. And then I went in with a second layer. And the second layer, I made sure to use just the 350 shade because this shade is a bit darker. So I just thought that it would help neutralize the look and not have it looking so light on her. And I feel like it did really help. But now looking back while I'm editing, I feel like I could have certainly used maybe a bit more of that 350 shade. And now over here, I'm just using a small stippling brush to make sure to just blend into all the crevices of her face, around her nose, around her mouth, around her eyes. I really love going in with a smaller stippling brush after I've used a beauty sponge because it really helps with making the complexion look really flawless, and it really helps with also going into the crevices of the face. Now, for today's concealer, I am using my old Beat Up almost finished FitMe concealer in the shade 40. I love this concealer. It's very lightweight, but it also does a really good job of covering up, and it also does a good job of brightening as well because it is a bit light. So I just apply that underneath her eyes, on her chin, a bit on the forehead, and on her nose. Now, if you notice, the nose one I am going to leave on almost during the entire look, and I only blend it in towards the end. This is what I like to do with a nose highlight. I just apply it and then I just leave it. Now I'm using the same stippling brush and I am blending the concealer underneath her eyes. I actually really enjoyed using this brush. I usually use a sponge for concealer, but today I just took the brush and I just went in with it, and I really loved how it blended out that concealer. It really gave a flawless look to her. And then afterwards I went in with my beauty sponge to just make sure that everything is blended nicely and also to soak some of that excess. And to set my powder today, I went in with my Powder to You from Sorbet. You guys know that I love this one, but this time I'm not using the shade Light. I'm using the shade Translucent, and I just use the powder puff that comes with this powder, and I just set underneath her eyes, and then afterwards I just use the same powder puff to bake underneath her eyes. And that's the only part that I set because I wanted to do her eye before I go on to the rest of her face, but I thought let me just apply the powder underneath her eyes, that way it would catch any excess that might fall. Then I use a smaller brush using the same powder, and I just set her eyelids before I went in with my eyeshadow. That way it will be very easy for me to blend my shadows. So for shadows today, I used quite a number. Starting up, this is the W7 Delicious Natural and a Berry eye color palette. So with this one, I just used a very neutral shade. Like I used a very nude type of shade, and I just used that to blend on the crease of her eyelid. And then afterwards, I went in with my Jaclyn Hill palette, which I was actually trying to avoid using, but I ended up using anyway. That first shade is Pukey. So I started out with Pukey on the crease and just also blending it on the outer corner of the eye. And I just kept doing that with the same brush that I used for that first shade. I just kept on blending that Pukey shade all over her lid, going up to her eyebrow. And when I was done with that, I took a much smaller blending brush and I went into the shade Chip. With this shade, I just really wanted to focus on the outer corner of the eye and just blend it out, like blow it out. And I first started off like very tight around the outer corner of the eye, and I just kept on blending, and then I would dip more into that chip shade, and I just kept on blending more and more, and the more I blended, the more I would go higher up. You guys are gonna see just a minute when she turns her head. Like over there. And then I also decided to apply it on the brow bone because I felt like it was just a bit too tight. I didn't like the way that it looked. And then I just started blowing it out by blending it upwards. And then next up, I used some shimmer shades, which I didn't actually show on camera. So this one right here is the 24/7 one. And I just first used it with a brush. But I was very unhappy with the payoff when I was using the brush. So I decided to go in with my finger. And I was just patting it in place. And for this part of the eye, I really wanted to layer different shades and shadows. But now I'm going back in with that same brush because I just wanted for it to blend seamlessly. And then next up, I went in with the shade Mix. And I just also used my finger with this one. I just patted it on top of that 24/7 shade. And then lastly, I went in with the shade Queen. And I love this one because it brought like some sort of like goldish element to that part of the look. So I just made sure to also blend it in with my finger because I really liked how the payoff was when I used my finger to blend these shadows. And then next up, I took my Rimmel London Magnify Eyes Color Edition and I used that gold shade from that palette. I went in using my brush and I just made sure to focus on the inner corner of the eye. I also really loved how this shadow came off. It was like beautiful and golden, and I felt like it just went in so nicely with those bronze deep shades. And now when I was done with the shadows, I went in with my LA Girl gel liner. This is actually one of my favorite products as well, and it's so easy to use. I used this one with a brush and I just made sure to give her a nice wing liner. Okay, so I did not intend to have her wing liner that long, but I feel like standing over her, I couldn't really tell because she wasn't sitting on a high chair because I don't have one. She was just sitting on a smaller chair, and I really feel like that really didn't help me because I really pulled that wing very, very high, but I still like the way it looked. And now I am just using a concealer. This is my Maybelline FitMe concealer that I'm using to clean up that wing. I just made sure to use a sharp concealer brush and I just cleaned it up very nicely. And afterwards, I made sure to pat that and make sure to blend it into the rest of her face using my finger. And now for her brows, I use my Take a Brow Pocket Brow Bar from Sorbet. I love the stuff, if you guys know, and I use that darker shade from that brow bar. And I'm using this using a brush. I first go in with the spoolie part of the brush and I brush the hairs upwards, and then I take the brush with the product side, and I just make sure to draw a line at the bottom, and then I just pull that upwards, and I just keep on blending until I'm very happy with the shape of the brow. I always make sure as well to extend the tail a little bit if like it's a person with short brows. And then after I was done with her brows, I used the Make a Splash Sorbet Waterproof Mascara, and I used this on her upper lids before I applied the lashes off camera. Now I'm using it on her lower lash. And that was basically it for the eyes. And now for the rest of the face, I went in with my Smudge Pressed Powder Matte Finish in the shade Almond, and I just tried to use that as some sort of bronzer, even though it was not dark enough for this particular model, but I still tried to use it, and I feel like it did make a bit of a difference. I actually appreciated what it did for me, but I would have been very happy with a much darker shade. So I just used that on on the hollows between her cheek and her jawline, and I use that on her jawline and the forehead. And then now taking a smaller eyeshadow blending brush, I use that as part of her nose contour after I had blended out that FitMe that I had placed on her nose earlier as highlight. And now for my blush, I went in with my Maybelline masterblush using that pink shade. You guys know that I love this blush. I just applied it on her cheeks. As usual, I usually apply a lot of blush, and my model told me that she actually enjoys wearing blush as well, so I was very happy. I put on a lot of blush on her. I put it on her forehead as well. Make sure to put some on her chin too, and we were both very happy people after that. And when I was done with the blush, I went in with one of my favorites, which is the Wet n Wild Megaglo highlighting powder, and I just placed that on her cheeks using the same brush I was using for the blush. I just placed that on her cheeks, making sure to blend it nicely. I also use a bit of this on her forehead. I used it on her chin, and I also used it at the tip of her nose so that I could give her that beautiful, glimmering tip of the nose. And now for the last three products. For the lips, I use one of my favorite combos. First up, I'm using my Yardley lipstick. This one is in the shade Siena. I really love this lipstick. I actually thought I had lost it, and I just recently found it. So I just use that as a lip liner because I didn't have a lip liner that would be dark enough to go perfectly with this look. So I just used a brush to apply that as a lip liner. I applied it all around her lips, making sure to blend it in. And then I used my Avon lipstick. This is one of my favorite lipsticks from Avon. I actually forgot the shade of this lipstick, but don't worry guys. Everything will be listed down below in the description bar if you're looking for any of these products that I used in this tutorial. And then after I was done with my Avon lipstick, I used my Essence lip gloss, which is also one of my favorites in the shade. I also forgot the shade name of this lip gloss, but it will also be linked in the description bar below. Using the same brush, I just made sure to blend that nicely all over her lips. And that was that for the face. The only last step which was left was to just set the entire face using the Body Shop setting spray, which I really love. It really gives off a dewy look. And that was it, everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys subscribe. If you're new to my channel and you're not subscribed yet, please make sure to like and comment. Thank you so much, you guys, for watching. I'll be seeing you guys on the next time with a different model.